Mom, I can't continue living like this. Ethan and his mom barely let me eat. A sudden SOS call interrupted my distress. Ilana, come back home, I instinctively shouted. Ilana had become worryingly thin. I won't forgive Ethan and his mother, I resolved with determination. Let me introduce myself. I'm Jonna, a 50-year-old housewife. My husband James is 52 and works for a company. Our daughter is turning 26, having graduated from college and landed a job at a major corporation. She started living alone, and James and I were enjoying our life as a couple. Despite her success, Ilana was shy around men and hesitant in relationships. When she finally got a boyfriend, James and I were overjoyed. James kept urging her to bring him over, asking, "What's he like? Bring him home sometime." I cautioned James, "Honey, don't push her. She'll introduce him when she's ready. Let's wait patiently." Ilana soon smiled and said she'd bring Ethan over. "Dad, you kept insisting, so I complained to Ethan. He agreed to come over to meet you, but don't say anything weird to him, okay?" James was visibly delighted when Ethan came to greet us. James and I were nervous, but Ethan's friendly conversation soon eased our tension. Ethan introduced himself, saying, "Hello, I'm Ethan Smith, and I'm seriously dating Ilana with the intention of marrying her." Ilana blushed and said, "Marrying Ethan? You're embarrassing me. You said it was just a casual greeting." James happily told Ilana, "No, it's great that he's thinking about the future. Ethan, I entrust Ilana to you." Their relationship progressed smoothly with our blessing, and Ethan proposed formally 5 months later. Seeing a blushing but happy Ilana made both James and me very happy. I heard Ethan worked for a major bank system company, and James and I discussed how their future seemed secure. As wedding preparations began, Ilana frequently sought advice. One day, she asked, "Hey Mom, how much is the market price for a wedding ring?" "Ethan is planning to buy one for about $10,000. Surprised, I replied. "For wedding rings, maybe about $2,500 each for the couple. I've heard engagement rings are around $3,500. Ilana seemed a bit uneasy. I felt the same way after asking around and reading magazines. Ethan's sense of money was odd. However, when Ilana said, "Ethan insists it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing and wants me to have something nice," I conveniently interpreted it as Ethan wanting to give her a special gift. After some time, the two moved out of their bachelor's residence and into a condominium in New York. The area was very expensive, but convenient for commuting. I expressed my concern to Ilana, saying, "Hey, Ilana, the area you and Ian live in must be pretty expensive to rent, right? Are you going to be able to afford the monthly payments?" She reassured me, "Don't worry, Mom. Ian's working hard and earns a decent salary too. His job requires living near the bank. Ethan is a systems engineer at a bank-rated systems company. If there is a problem, Ethan needs to rush to the site even in the middle of the night. That's why the location had to be close to the bank, within a short taxi ride." Apparently, Ilana explained, "Ethan's company gives a substantial housing allowance, so we're fine. Don't worry, Mom." Not fully understanding the system company's situation, I just accepted it as how things were. Months passed, and I invited Ilana for lunch before her marriage. Ilana and I often went for lunch together. However, after her marriage, when I invited her to join me, she often declined, citing being busy with work or having made other plans. James suggested that maybe she's just busy with her married life, but it didn't seem like Ilana was avoiding me. Over the phone, Ilana said, "Next Saturday." "Oh, that's when Ethan is on a business trip." "Sure, Mom, I can make it. I'll find a place for us." I was a bit thrilled to have lunch with my daughter after half a year. When I finally saw Ilana, she looked a bit pale. Concerned, I said, "Ilana, what's wrong? If you're not feeling well, take it easy. Just stay home and rest, okay?" Ilana reassured me, "No, I'm fine. I've just been tired from MDI overtime lately. Plus, lunch with you might be just what I need to unwind." She managed a weak smile, and we enjoyed a good chat, just the two of us. About 2 hours in, Ilana's phone rang. She looked shocked when she saw the display. Ilana told me, "Mom, I have to go home already. Ethan's mother is calling. She explained that Ivy was at their place. Surprised, I said, sorry for keeping you during such a busy time. Ilana reassured me, it's okay. You can hurry back. Apologizing, Ilana quickly left. Another half a year went by, and during this time, something terrible happened to Ilana. I learned about it from a phone call from her. It was a sad day, and James and I were enjoying our day off. While I was making her tea, suddenly my phone rang. The display showed Ilana. I quickly answered, and Ilana hesitantly started, Mom, it's me. I. She seemed unable to continue, and sensing something was wrong, I asked, what's the matter? Did something happen? Ilana remained silent for a while. Patiently, I waited for her to start talking. Eventually, she said, Mom, I can't live like this anymore. Ethan and his mom barely let me eat. I might not survive if this continues. Shocked, I asked, are you okay? Sounds like things are really bad. Why don't you come back home? Ilana seemed undecided. I firmly told her, if you're feeling unwell, you can just sit around idly. Come back home. We'll talk it over when you get here. Ilana responded, really? Can I come back? But I don't have any money. I can't leave. I thought this was strange. Ilana was earning a decent salary. But there was no time for a long discussion. Her situation sounded serious. First, I needed to meet with Ilana to see how she is doing. I instructed Ilana, take only your valuables with you and leave the house. There's a convenience store near your apartment, right? I will drive there and pick you up. Wait for me there. Sobbing, Ilana agreed. James and I hurried to the convenience store. When we arrived, Ilana was crouched in the parking lot. She saw me and said, Mom, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done this. She broke down and cried. I hugged Ilana, and together with James, we helped her into the car. She was terribly thin and almost gray in complexion. I was astonished, wondering what could have happened to her. I held Ilana until she stopped crying. James said to me, she will not be able to come down here. Let's take her home soon and give her a good rest. We need to talk to Ethan. I agreed with James, stating, yes, right now letting Ilana rest is our top priority. When we arrived home, Ilana, possibly due to exhaustion, immediately fell asleep on the sofa. After she woke up, I served her some easy-to-eat food. She ate voraciously in front of us, indicating how hungry she must have been. It was shocking to hear her stories about not being allowed to eat and having no money. I asked Ilana, what do you mean you're not allowed to eat? Ilana explained, my salary is lower than Ethan's, so Ethan and his mom Ivy keep telling me to save more. Gradually, my food portions were reduced. I asked, really? But you're making the food, right? Because you're a married couple, and you eat the same food, right? Ilana shook her head, saying, no. For the past 6 months, Ivy has been cooking Ethan's meals. I'm not even allowed in the kitchen. James asked, Ellen, Ivy is in your house. This is the first time I'm hearing about this. Does this mean Ivy is staying there all the time? Ilana explained that Ivy had moved in with them about 6 months ago, and they started living together gradually, right around the time Ilana and I had lunch. Ivy had an argument with her husband and came to stay with Ian for just a week. But then Ethan got mad at his father and told Ivy she could stay indefinitely. I was shocked and glanced at James, who seemed to feel the same. Ilana continued, since then, Ivy has been criticizing my budgeting, saying it's all wrong and that I can't manage money at all. After Ivy criticized the budget, she took control of the household finances. Moreover, Ethan did not oppose Ivy at all and instead joined her in blaming me. Now Ivy is controlling Ethan's and my entire salary. Ilana said, Ivy saw my pay slip and demanded I work more, including overtime. Ivy told me, your salary is much lower than Ethan's. Leave the housework to me and work more. How about doing more overtime? Ian also told Ilana, yes, that's right. I agree with more overtime. It's nice to have my mom doing the housework. You're lucky, Alana. Ivy scrutinized Alana's pay slips, always looking for unnecessary expenses, and eventually found something else to criticize: the cafeteria deductions. Alana's company has a cafeteria, and lunch costs are deducted from her salary. Ivy told Alana, "You're spending too much on lunch. I'll make you a lunchbox from now on. Stop eating at the cafeteria." Alana's attempts to argue were met with attacks from both Ivy and Ethan. Alana confided, "Whenever I try to speak up, Ivy and Ethan gang up on me. It never ends up being a calm discussion." Alana said something, but her words were suppressed by Ivy and Ethan. Now, Ethan and Ivy control all of Alana's salary, leaving her with almost no money of her own. When Alana wanted to go to the hair salon, Ivy called it extravagant and reluctantly gave her money. Ivy also complained about Alana's makeup being too expensive, telling her to buy cheaper products. Alana can't even buy new clothes, but Ivy never complains about Ethan's spending. Ethan seems to spend money lavishly. Alana told me the other day, Ethan bought a branded watch. He told me that because of his job, he would be treated like an idiot if he didn't wear something decent. Ethan has a reckless way of spending his money. Alana began to sob as she recalled these painful events. James and I listened in disbelief. Then, Alana's phone rang. She flinched and turned pale. I instinctively answered the phone for her. It was Ivy. "So, isn't this Alana's phone? Why is Johnny answering?" Ivy asked. I replied, "Hello, it's been a while. Alana is not feeling well. I can talk to you on her behalf." Ivy said, "Is that so? Well, all right. Could you tell Alana to come back home soon?" I replied, "Unfortunately, I can't do that. Ellen is unwell. She'll stay here until she recovers." Ivy retorted, "You're coddling her too much. As a mother, you should educate Ellen properly. She can't manage a budget or do household chores. It's always one problem after another." Struggling to find the right words, I remained silent. Then, Ivy changed the topic, asking, "So, Ilana will be commuting to work from your home?" I replied, "Yes, considering her health, we'll need to discuss this with her company. But for now, she'll be commuting from here." Ivy then said, "Please tell Ilana to return as soon as she's well." I responded, "Excuse me, Ivy, but I think it's necessary for us, including Ethan, to have a discussion about the future living arrangements." Ivy snorted and said, "Fine, we can talk any time," before hanging up. I couldn't understand why Ivy was so confident, but at least Ilana was safe for now. We needed to focus on her health and feelings and plan our next steps. That night, after Ilana went to sleep, James and I discussed the situation. The next day, Ilana was examined at a hospital. As expected, she was underweight and not sleeping well. After talking with her, we decided she should take a leave of absence from work. She enjoyed my cooking, saying it was delicious. I asked her, "What were you eating while living with Ian? What kind of meals did Ivy prepare for you?" Ilana said, "My mother-in-law only cooks for Ethan and herself. I always had bread ends from a local bakery. They sell bread very cheaply. That's what I used to eat." I was shocked. Ellen had been deprived of proper meals, while Ivy and Ethan ate normally, just bread ends. Since 3 months ago, Ivy had stopped her from eating at the company cafeteria. My lunchbox was just bread ends in a container. I was embarrassed, so I ate secretly in the break room when no one was around, Ilana said. Ivy would taunt her about not earning as much as Ethan, saying with her salary, bread ends were all she deserved. She had been living on just bread ends for 3 months. I was shocked, and James, who heard everything, couldn't hide his surprise. Tired from sharing, Ilana lay down to rest. James told me, "This is serious. We need to investigate further. If Ian or Ivy calls again, by some time, I'll gather more information." I told James, "Yes, I think this is going too far." Then James and I began looking into Ilana's circumstances. I started by calling her work colleague, who said, "Recently, Ilana has been doing a lot of overtime and looked pale." She often declined after-work drinks, saying she couldn't go because of her husband and mill. James also talked to Ilana's boss. Ilana's boss mentioned, "I've been concerned about Ilana lately because she's been doing too much overtime. She seemed desperate to work." Ilana's boss commented, "Ilin is so conscientious. Maybe she's been pushing herself too hard. I hope she recovers soon and comes back to us." Thanks to her boss's initiative, Ileana was granted sickness allowance by her company. The allowance was 2/3 of her salary, but we were grateful to receive it. We decided to have the sickness allowance paid into a different account from her usual salary account. 2 weeks after Ileana returned home, Ethan called. He insisted Ileana should be well by now. When I looked at James, he answered the phone. James humbly requested Ethan, "Ileana is not fully recovered yet. Please let her rest for another week." Ethan told James over the phone, "I guess there's no choice. Just 1 more week, okay?" And then hung up. I protested to James, saying she needs at least 3 more weeks to recover, and we don't know what they'll do to her if she goes back. James reassured me, "Don't worry, we won't stick to the 1-week timeline. They've treated her terribly, and we have a plan." He then asked Ileana, "What do you want to do? If you want to try again with Ethan, we won't stop you. But if you want to leave him, we'll support you." Ileana, suddenly resolute, said, "I've been thinking. Am I really as useless as Ivy and Ethan say? But this isn't right. They're just taking my money. I don't want this anymore. I want a divorce." James encouraged her, saying, "That's right. You've chosen your path. We'll always be on your side." James shared the information he had gathered with us. We prepared for the possibility of Ethan coming over, ready to handle the situation. 1 week passed, and we didn't contact Ian. 9 days later, Ethan and Ivy came to visit. When the doorbell rang, I checked the intercom and informed Ileana and James. James suggested, "Let's talk to them directly and settle this." Ileana nodded in agreement. Opening the door, we found Ethan and Ivy glaring at us. Calming myself, I greeted them warmly. "Hello, what brings you here so suddenly?" Ethan demanded, "Why hasn't Ileana returned home? It's been a week. You did tell her, right?" Ivy also chimed in, "That's right. You can't do your chores, you can't do your laundry, and you can't even keep your promise to come home. What a mess you are. Parents and children are helpless." Inviting them in, I said, "Let's not talk in the doorway. Please come inside." Reluctantly, they entered. Ileana told them firmly, "I won't return to that house, Ethan. Please, let's divorce. I can't live with you anymore." Ethan threatened loudly, "You think you can just decide that?" But Ileana stood her ground, facing Ethan with resolve. Ivy then berated Ileana, saying, "For 6 months, I did all the housework and supported Ethan while you neglected your duties." Ileana countered, "It's not that I didn't do the chores. Whenever I did, you would criticize my methods and take over the tasks, didn't you?" Ivy retorted, "How dare you speak to me like that after making me work so hard? You should be ashamed." "I was only trying to correct your mistakes," Ethan joined in. "That's right. My mother helped because you couldn't handle the chores, allowing you to focus on work," he added. That's when James shouted at them, "What nonsense. You took Ilin's salary and fed her only bread ends. Your actions are the worst kind of abuse." They were shocked by James' outburst. James added, "Ethan, you have been fired from your company. I checked out your employment status. You don't have the power to continue paying the rent on that apartment anymore, do you?" Ethan began to look uneasy. Ileana added, "I didn't know until Dad told me." James continued, "I hired a detective to find out Ian. You were fired 6 months ago for an affair with your boss's wife." Ileana accused Ethan, "You pushed me to work because you lost your job and income." Ethan turned pale and hung his head. James then confronted Ivy. "You have a shopping addiction, and that's right. You didn't leave your home due to a fight, but because you were divorced and had nowhere to go." Ivy lost her composure and turned pale. James concluded, Ethan is being sued for alimony, and Ivy is being chased by debt collectors. They were trying to pass their debts onto Ileana. Ileana, trembling with anger, placed a piece of paper on the desk. She said, "Once and for all, let's divorce. I've filled out half of the divorce form. You complete it and submit it to the authorities. We'll communicate through lawyers from now on." Ethan, prostrating at Ileana's feet on the carpet, pleaded, "Please don't say we should divorce. It was just a moment of madness. I was wrong to hide it from you. You're all I have, Ilana. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." Ivy, also appealing to Ileana, cried, "I did all the housework and took care of everything, didn't I? I'm sorry, please come back. I'll keep doing the chores." Ileana, looking at Ethan and Ivy coldly, said, "I'm fed up. Who would want to start over with you two? You hid what you did and exploited my salary. I don't want to see your faces." Ethan and Ivy were unable to move from their spot, crying inconsolably. James sternly told them, "The conversation is over. It's time for you to leave. If you don't, we have our ways to deal with it." Reluctantly, Ethan and Ivy stood up and left our home defeated. Afterward, with a lawyer's help, Ileana and Ethan officially divorced. Of course, we filed for alimony from Ethan. In addition to hiding his affair, we also added the fact that Ethan did not provide adequate meals to Elena in the alimony claim. We had a doctor's diagnosis, which served as conclusive evidence against Ethan. Ethan had to move out of the apartment and live in a cheaper one with Ivy. Now he's working day and night to pay the alimony to Ileana, and Ivy, not working, has become the target of Ethan's anger, and they constantly fight. Our lawyer informed us about Ethan and Ivy's current situation. Ellen fully recovered and returned to work. Ileana seems to be enjoying her work more than ever. She apologized to me and James, saying, "I'm sorry for being a burden and coming back home. Thank you for all your help with the divorce. I'll be staying here for a while." I hugged her, saying, "Divorce doesn't matter. The fact that you're alive and well is all that matters to us." James added, "Don't overdo it. You're a hard worker, and sometimes you keep things to yourself too much." Ileana admitted, "I should have talked to you both sooner. I tried to handle too much on my own." Seeing Ileana's smile return was truly heartwarming, and James, who stood by us and fought against Ethan and Ivy, proved to be incredibly reliable. I fell for him all over again. When I told him, he joked, "Then how about showing your gratitude with food? Make my favorite pork cutlets tonight as a family." We've overcome difficulties and will surely face more in the future, but with James and Ileana by my side, I want to support each other as a family.